Please welcome the very talented, the always consistent Samuel Carr.
Ready with music, Puddin'? All right. The Maharal, mystic and hero of Jewish legend. In the 1500s, he saved the Jewish ghetto of Prague by creating a golem to defend his people. Golems were humans without a soul, created by only the most powerful mystics, which the Maharal certainly was. Guardians and sentinels rendered speechless, for no matter how powerful man may grow, God, it is said, is the only one who may grant the gift of tongues. And here the Maharal stood before me, alive and well, in a fashion, creating for his people another golem, in a fashion. Bringing him back to life had been an arduous process, but with the right threats and the right amount of money, it's surprising how quickly the impossible simply becomes the improbable. Bringing him up to speed with what had happened in the ensuing centuries since had been, however, less of a trial than I had assumed. He seemed disturbed that Prague had become little more than a place the hip went to lose themselves. When I told him the ghetto had become an oversized photo opportunity for his now well-to-do descendants, all he could do was just smile sadly. Say what you will about mystics, but they can handle the strange and unexpected with a poise I couldn't hope to ever match. So when I showed him his lab, the new technology with which he would build his new, improved golem, he learned and absorbed with an astonishing speed. We spoke often, debating and musing on philosophy and history. He would wax eloquent on the various prides and disappointments he felt over the fate of our co-religionists. But he never asked about his body. His perfectly elegant, completely synthetic body. The CPU in his frame would loudly whir when he kvetched and philosophized, but still he didn't ask. Despite this, it had been a near Sisyphean process, melding his concept of the holy with our concept of cutting edge. The sanctified river clay he once used to create the golem's body was now the latest electronics and alloys. The words of power he once drew in the mud with his finger was now inscribed with an acetylene torch. And today would be his day of triumph. I'd helped as I could, but with his old antiquated sense of propriety, I felt it wise to stay in the background. The Maharal was now hunched over the golem's face, etching 3 Hebrew letters into its forehead. Aleph, Mem, Tav, Emet. In the tone of an excited child, the undead, in a fashion, mystic, babbled away. Kindalak, do you know the significance of these letters? No, master. Emet, the Hebrew word for truth, key to life. I see. And when I remove the aleph, it becomes the word met, death. I knew all this. Anyone who knew anything about golems knew that. However, hearing it come from this surprisingly well-articulated artificial mouth filled me with a fear I couldn't quite explain. A fascinating metaphor, master. The Maharal turned around and stared at me, his artificial eyes showing a kind of life I thought it incapable of. He shrugged and slapped a button next to the golem. 100 computers came to life, their collective hums rising to the level of a tortured scream. After a few seconds, the whirs faded, replaced by groans coming from the golem's mouth. The mystic snarled. The golem can make noise? The golem sat up and began to babble it away at no one in particular. The Maharal looked at me in horror. Golems aren't supposed to talk. Only God can give speech. What happened? Well, I decided to upgrade the hardware a bit. Make the golem a bit more useful. What happened to God? My eyes scanned across the room, a universe of information surrounding us. I just gave a helpless shrug back and spread my arms to span everything around us. I guess, master, we just decided that God was simply inefficient. The Maharal made a sound that I could equate to weeping, though I knew no liquid would ever come from those eyes. So our hopes, our meditations, our prayers, our souls are... I could just nod and say, yeah, redundant. The Maharal stared at his hands. I know that me being here wasn't natural. It's been 500 years. My body must be mostly gone, I guess. But how much of this body is artificial? All of it. And my mind, did you create it? Is anything I remember at all real? Well, we were able to extract a kind of rough record of your mind from what was left of your remains, and we were able to transfer it to this new body. So when I say my soul was fused to a new body, that's not quite right, is it? No. You might simply see it as a changing a file's format, to use the parlance of our times. Young man, this is unforgivable, the magnitude of this sin. I suddenly grew tired of Maharal's voice. He was the 5-year-old catching me looking at porn and asking why these two people were hugging. Oh, shut it, old man. How is it that I've done anything different than you creating your golem? The sin is just as terrible, isn't it? I did it to protect our people. And the moment his purpose was served, I destroyed it. I knew it was a sin, but it saved lives. Why did you do this? Truthfully, sir, I wanted you to fail. What? You're absolutely right. What we've done here is unforgivable. But I had faith too. I wanted you to show me that this wouldn't work, that there was still something we couldn't take over and ruin with our grubby little fingers. The Maharal strode up to me and grabbed me by the neck. I had heard stories that he had fought against the Christian soldiers alongside his golem, dispatching enemies with a holy furor. And I couldn't help but wonder if the Christian soldiers saw the same face I was looking at now. I could watch as those muscles tensed, then relax, as he dropped me with a sigh. So that thing on the table and me were the same thing, yeah? Well, kind of. Your mind is prefab, I guess you could say. No? Will we die? From age? No. But it's like your old golem. They can be, both of you can be deactivated. So, no met. I just shrugged. Without warning, the Maharal and the golem both collapsed. The whirring of the computers ended. I pulled out the torch and began to remove the Hebrew letters from their foreheads. I couldn't help but envy them both, in a fashion.
Sam Carr, our resident shaman. What a hip Jew you are.